What's up, everybody? It's Hotline League episode 159. I am so excited to be here. It's a very, very, very exciting episode tonight for a variety of reasons that we'll be getting into in just a short time. But among those reasons is the fact that I am joined once again by my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman, whose hair continues to befuddle those who witness it. Mark, how is the hair stuff going? What's going on? What's happening?
There's not really much of an update since last week. I'm still just pushing it around in my head.
Didn't it get cut at some point in time? Didn't you guys do some sort of
I cut it
situation?
Ashley helped cut it like 3 or 4 months ago, but
Okay.
only the sides. We're too scared to touch the top because we fuck it up.
Very good. Well, in addition to my constant co-host Mark Zimmerman, we're joined right now by Meteos for the first time in a while. How's it going, Meteos?
Going good.
You may have seen
good,
Meteos,
chilling.
the star of Sneaky and Meteos' co-streaming on the weekends, at which Sneaky does not always show up in time for.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's a solo show.
he's a what is the free spirit?
Yes.
Sometimes he's there, sometimes he's not. But either way, I enjoy watching the games. It's fun to talk about them, and yeah, been having a good time with it.
Very
He's
good.
the star of the analyst desk too. We stole his tweet and ran it.
Is that true? You guys won't
yeah.
put him
Oh,
on the
yeah.
analyst desk, but you will steal his tweets for the
Yeah.
analyst desk.
Pretty much. I just watched Meteos' co-stream and take a couple points, write them down, reuse them.
Good.
Great.
Good. The info needs to be out there.
Fantastic. Anyway, I want to say thank you to Alienware for sponsoring the show, and also another partner that we will talk about later. Anyway, we're going to get into that in just a bit. But first, let's talk about this past weekend. So it was the first. It's kind of funny because LCS gets to cheat now, where they're like, oh, they get to have 2 starts. It's like the start of the season really starts with lock-in, and then the start of the season also really starts with LCS. Like a lot of you guys were tweeting, Mark, on the broadcast. I saw Dash and some other people being like, LCS is officially starting now. And I'm like, wait, does that mean LCS did not start with the lock-in? Is lock-in not an LCS tournament? What is going on?
It was weird for me too because we kind of reset our stats in some situations, but not in others. So it'd be like a 2-game sample size, and I'd be like, yeah, Alfari's like fucking hard smashing people, and then you look at because it has his first game against Revenge where he got solo killed, and his stats look terrible. But I'm like, wait, but his lock-in stats is like plus 20. Fuck, and so I don't know. It's a little bit of a bit of a kerfuffle.
Yeah, I guess.
Also seen the other side of that, where I think it's like when they pick the champions, their band pick rate, win rate, it's like only from the lock-in tournament. So it'll be a champion that was played like twice, 50% win rate, and then loses every single time, in the first week, and it's still showing 50% win rate.
Like throughout the course of the weekend.
Yeah, looking at Zaya particularly, I don't think I saw her win.
Yeah. Well, I guess everyone's figuring stuff out as how to put lock-in into the regular split. But either way, it's fun. I mean, it's crazy to see. We're just normally by this point in time in the year, or at least by this point in time in the season, we would have had just every team play 2 games. And here, not only did they play the 3 games this past weekend, but we also have lock-in, so there's just a lot to talk about. And so that's what makes it extra spicy, whatever, like the CLG and TSM conversations, which I feel like will be a lot of what we talk about this episode, and some other stuff, the import stuff, all that will be pretty good. I don't know, Mark, are there any standout stories from you this past weekend? Anything that you noticed or you want to talk about or you think will be interesting?
I mean, I think you hit the big ones about what's going on in the league. I got a Reddit thread. So I actually am somewhat interested in talking about that. I don't know if you guys saw it.
No, I didn't see it. When was this and where was it?
It's about you?
It was Vigar V2, the C9, I think he's analyst or like position coach. I forget exactly what his title is, but he had like a rant about a point, and it was like this kind of just like, yeah, it was like one of those things where like there's a bunch of misunderstanding going on. Like he accidentally tagged Spawn, but it was my point, but I had referenced a point that Spawn made while filling, and it was just like this mess. But there was some interesting stuff about there that I do want to talk about between like public-facing analysts, like broadcast analysts, and like the coaching community and player community and stuff.
Well, wait, what was it? Or is now the right time to talk about it, you think?
I don't care. Yeah, sure. If it's
okay,
fine
yeah.
you
So break it down.
Do you want to get to Meteos if there's anything before I just launch into this?
No, I want to hear this. Now I'm excited about this drama.
Oh, God, drama. Well, he called us fucking idiots.
Fuck. Okay.
So like it was during a jungle reel of the Golden Guardians versus C9 game where Blabber did the level 2 gank on the flashless Camille on Talia and he got the first blood. And the point that I wanted to make was like, and this is what Spawn and I were talking about, was like Iconic didn't really adapt his path. Spawn wanted him to go after getting up to topside and getting that scuttle. I think what Spawn wanted was him to go bot and contest the bot scuttle, if I remember correctly. But the replay started really weird where they had like this swooping like cinematic shot of Talia as I'm trying to make this analytic point. And I'm like, where the fuck am I in this replay? And so like I kind of just started like word souping and like I said something that was like, oh yeah, you could have adapted and gone blue and bot or something and invaded bot. And like Vigar thought I was saying like map split, which I don't know. Either way, it was just like a breakdown. He was like, oh, these analysts don't know what the fucking idiots, and then they control people's perception of players and this kind of thing. So I don't know. It didn't really bug me, but it was just one of those things where I was like, yeah, I know I fucked it up. I actually talked to the broadcast team before that even blew up, where I was like, let's not do like the cinematic replays on analytic points because it's just really confusing.
Yeah.
But I think there's a couple interesting things to talk about. Which
did you comment in the thread?
Yeah, I just explained like, yeah, I fucked up because I just word souped, and that is like not at all the point I wanted to make. You're kind of rambling. I mean, I think we've all been there. If you've ever been on the AD where you get this replay package handed to you and you're like, this is a good gank here by Blabber, what the Iconic thing, so it was a mess. And like, I didn't defend it at all. I was like, yeah, it was the first time I saw that replay package. I didn't know what it was going to look like. And then I just got lost. But I do actually like when people comment on the AD and talk about things, and like there's a discourse, and I'm sad that it's
attention.
Yes, absolutely. But I think it's one of those things where usually I feel like what happens is like pro players and coaches and analysts and stuff who are on the team side, we probably say a lot of wrong shit from their perspective, and they usually like just don't comment on it until it probably builds up to a point where they're like, fuck these idiots. And then it's like this like buildup of like hatred that comes out, which like I understand, but like I feel like it'd be better if there was like a more constant like dialogue of like, hey, I think you got this wrong. And then like you'll find oftentimes that a lot of us are like, oh yeah, you know what, that's interesting, blah, 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 we can talk about it. But like there's no incentive for them to do it, like it takes time out of their day to respond to what we're saying on the AD and shit. So like I get why it doesn't happen. But like people like PoE, who's really good about commenting like, no, my build was supposed to do this. Like when people start talking about his Imperial mandate and shit, like at least he's like, very good about communicating it and stuff.
That's a really funny example because I've noticed PoE always does that. Like he goes on Twitter, defends his builds every time he does a troll build, but he didn't do it for the Corki game. Like, that Leandri's Corki was some of the worst. That's the worst build I think I've ever seen in a pro game. Like, he was straight up trolling. And after the game, I went to look for the tweet. I was like, how's he going to defend this one? And it wasn't there. Like, I don't know.
Rough game, we'll do better tomorrow. That was the tweet instead.
There was just no tweet, nothing. Radio silent.
Oh, God, that's too funny.
Do you, go ahead, Mark.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like, yeah, like I appreciate when people comment and respond to things because I feel like overall this is one of the things that I wish there was more, was just like more back and forth between the two like Twitter / broadcast analysts and like team side stuff before it gets like the buildup of like, this guy's a fucking idiot,
trashing my players, making people think my guys are bad.
I mean, it's definitely weird because it's hard. There's not really like a good place to have that conversation. It's like everyone will hear what the analyst desk says, even if you don't agree with it. Like, say I don't agree with something you say, I thought it was really stupid, and I like tweet a response. You're not really gonna get the response or like have a way to respond to my response, and most people aren't gonna see like one side of it. So I think it can be kind of hard to have the conversation, but it can definitely be good.
Yeah, and I think like I said, there's not much of an incentive to like go out of your way for like most pros or analysts. On top of the fact that like I've also talked with Travis about this, I feel like the power balance is definitely on the broadcast side of like when you have these conversations, because I think fans will in general trust a pro player over like an AD member or whoever. But at the same time, that's not their job, so to speak. And so like a lot of people are like, shut up and play, or like this kind of thing. And they'd also, like you said, don't have the same platform. So like, the best that they can hope for if they're trying to correct something is like a Reddit thread response that someone else posts of their tweet that then I have to respond to, which is what happened here. And ultimately good, I think. But like, to your point, it's like a fucking mess to try and get that conversation started.
I'm of the opinion that everyone should just do what Meteos does, which is when the analyst desk starts, he just puts a side-scrolling platformer on the screen and plays that, completely covering the analyst desk completely, or any interviews or anything. And that's what you experience instead.
That's not totally what I do.
Totally.
Oh, well, see, on the co-streaming like league partner broadcast, it doesn't even give me the analyst desk audio or anything. Like, it doesn't give me caster audio, it doesn't give me analyst desk. I do listen to the interviews. I watch the interviews. But yeah, when we have downtime, there's nothing to look at between games. I'm gonna play some Skull. Why not?
I don't even. What is that game?
It's called Skull. It's really good.
Like SKULL?
Just one L.
Okay.
SKUL.
Very good. But yeah, that's my enjoyment. I like the Meteos stream a lot, and I don't even have an issue with that because oftentimes you're talking about the game and stuff while you're playing it. But it is very funny sometimes because I'll just see you don't even like cover the screen completely, so like Mark's head will be like bobbing at the edge of the window of the game. It's
like, yeah, because I gotta see when they're coming back to the game.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's funny. I'm just teasing. Okay, so obviously Mark's biggest story of the weekend was his drama. Meteos, what did you have anything that was really interesting to you about this weekend, or any? I mean, again, like everybody's talking about TSM and CLG, but I don't know if you had anything that was interesting or surprising.
Not to me personally. I mean, I've been co-streaming all the games, following it pretty closely, just trying to see how the teams are. So, nothing really like directly related to me.
I did like that on Sunday, you and Sneaky through the first 3 games were like, oh, all the games have been stomps. The schedule's just not that great today. And then we got the CLG TSM match, which was just like very entertaining, but in like a tragic way.
Oh, that's a painful one.
Yeah.
I can't. It was like the game on Saturday. What was it? Immortals versus Golden Guardians, where it's like, if you don't really understand the game at a high level, I'm sure it's entertaining and it's like close. But when you're actually looking for good plays and you watch that, you're just like, oh my God, this is terrible. Please make it stop.
I mean, it was entertaining to watch. I was flipping between your and Double F's co-streams, and just like, you guys would just be like, oh my God, this is so bad. And then I'd go to Double F's co-stream and he'd just be silent as like something was happening. And it was just like watching a train wreck. So it was a fun way to end the weekend, I guess. I know that it was the 4th game, but yeah.
Yeah, it was funny because I'm pretty sure Hai was on the desk that day, and he's just like talking about all the plays he thinks that they should have done to win the game. It was just hilarious seeing him.
Like he's just sitting on the sidelines, like, please.
Yeah, why don't they just do this? Why don't they just do that?
Yeah.
Too funny.
Yeah, it was. You guys saw that Reddit thread? I think it was like Sunday night where they were like, the reason why CLG is like a good addition to the LCS, and it's so true because like when you're watching CLG's games, like against TSM and 100 Thieves, I was just watching it, and it's not even like a hindsight thing. I was watching it in real time, and I'm like, okay, they're in such a good spot. They just have to do this, and they'll win. Like the only way they lose is if they have this like very narrow lose condition, and they somehow hit it every single time. It's impressive. Almost.
I forget whose tweet it was. It might have been a Raz tweet about their 1 versus 100 Thieves, where it's like the only way they like lose this game is if they make it like a coin flip for Elder or something, and then they go with Soul, take this like weird ass fight in your Elder, lose it.
Man, that whole sequence was just some of the worst League of Legends I've watched.
Well,
yeah.
Regardless,
it's not
a
great.
spicy weekend to get us going, and I'm excited for the calls that we're going to get tonight. Mark, do you want to? I think it's actually been a bit. Do you want to explain how the show works?
Yeah, so for people who don't know, this is a live call-in show, so you can come in. I'm spamming Twitch chat with the Discord link. Go ahead, join up there. Once you get there, go join the Pleb Calls or Pleb Calls 2 voice channel. Mute your microphone when you get in there. No mouth breathers allowed. Then in the Pleb Topics text channel, you're going to write what your take is. So, you think CLG is good for the league because their existence makes the other 9 teams look great or whatever that thread was. If I like your topic, I will pull you from the Pleb Calls voice channel into the waiting room where you will hang out until it's your turn to be on. We'll do a quick mic check to make sure you sound good, and then you'll be on air with us.
And
chatting.
if you are a sub, first off, thank you for being a sub. But also be sure to sync your Twitch with your Discord so that you can get access to the subtopics chat, where you can also put your topic. It moves a little slower than the pleb topics, so it's more likely that you'll get on if you do that. But if your dig is bad, it doesn't guarantee you getting on. So have good takes, please, or at least interesting ones. Anyway, while Mark is doing that, I want to read off some subs. Speaking of subs, thank you to Adam XK, Justin C. Scott, Ari Waddle, Ventus Official, Red Rifle, I think that's what it is. Yeah, Red Rifle, Hobnobbin for 1 year, Real Foxy 1 for gifting a sub, Joey Ride, and Big White Goon. Okay, so looks like
I don't have anyone pulled, so you better
Mark
find
is
some more ways to
in
fill.
the process of going through the polling. I will ask Meteos.
What's your stock investment game plan? What's your investment
All on
strategy?
Doge.
Oh shit!
All in on Dogecoin to the moon.
Just to be clear, this show is not offering any financial advice, and nothing here should be considered that way. Meteos is just talking about a crypto that he likes, cryptocurrency. No, but Meteos, how have things been for you this year? Because I know you've been doing the co-streaming, and what else have you been up to?
Well, that's the main thing I've been up to this year. I mean, we're still in COVID times, so there's not a whole lot that I can even be doing. But yeah, I've been trying to get back into streaming as well. Like, I like co-streaming on the weekends, but also I'm just trying to get more into League. I took a pretty big break when, Shadowlands came out. I had to save Azeroth. You know how it is. But I've been getting a little bit more into it. And yeah, I mean, I've been having some decent fun with League.
Nice.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are really enjoying the game right now. So I've heard mixed messages on the meta, but I feel like a lot of people are enjoying playing it. So it's good to hear.
We have a caller.
We do have a caller. Okay. OPTSM fan is here. OPTSM fan, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix, Arizona. It's been a while since you've been on, I feel like.
Yeah, it's been about probably a couple of months for sure. Definitely a whole full year.
Welcome back to the show. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
Essentially, I think the overreaction from fans primarily, but even some people like the personalities towards TSM needs to be tampered right now.
Okay. Why do you think that?
So there was I saw the thread that LS put out there about how while they looked bad, I'm not going to discredit. They look horrible. I'm not here to make excuses for their play, but I think that with the way that the format of the new LCS is, to where your record this split will transfer over into the summer, that there is going to be ample time for them to work out the stuff that they need, and whether that means Bjergsen going to find another coach or some sort of mentor to come in and help him out, or he finds stuff through the staff with Curry and Kays. I think that it's an overreaction in my opinion, because I feel that the LCS having the lock-in tournament gave people a look at TSM and all the teams that they never had before, so they're drawing conclusions even faster when the lock-in tournament had no actual value on the split.
So the LS thread that you're referring to, I won't read the whole thing, but the first tweet is, TSM are quite literally a bottom tier team at the moment, and there's no easy fixing it, especially not with 5 weeks left. Their laning phases, overall individual gameplay ideas, player by player, and drafting are all insanely bad. This is several times now they got away with stealing the Mona Lisa. This is following their win over CLG. And he goes on for a little bit longer, but people can go look that up. So, Mark, should people be less concerned about TSM? Are people overreacting?
Yes and no. There's part I agree with where I still think that they can figure it out kind of thing. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I don't think it's fair to write off the lock-in tournament. I know it doesn't have a bearing necessarily on where their placement is in spring split or anything, but you still can look at the quality of games that they were playing and lock-in to use as a data point in some sense for how good you think this team is. It's not like I've watched just 3 games of TSM now. I've watched 12 You know, like I've watched more than half a split's worth by this point, even though the games don't all contribute to the same end goal of getting into spring playoffs. Like I still watch them play a bunch together, and it's not been impressive by any stretch of the imagination. So like, yeah, if this was halfway through spring, like imagine that this is halfway through spring and you've seen this many games, you would be worried regardless of record, just by the eye test alone, which is what I think myself and a lot of others are going on.
OPTSM fan, I'm kind of curious when, like, okay, so Ellis's point is that there's only 5 weeks of the split left, right? Because it's shortened. So how important is it to you that TSM gets good by playoffs or during playoffs, or is it okay for you if they skip MSI and just start to really come together in summer?
I think if you're a realistic TSM fan right now, you shouldn't be thinking that there's even a remote chance that they make it to MSI, let alone make it into playoffs. So like I have set the bar incredibly low from what I've seen. To Mark's point, it's not like I'm writing off what I've seen in the lock-in tournament and that they have a lot to improve on. But I think TSM fans will have to learn patience this year, where you don't have Bjergsen on the team anymore. We don't have Doublelift on the team anymore. There are people on Twitter saying that the wrong retired TSM player is coaching and everything, and they just want to draw like really stark conclusions so early in the split that I think even if they were to miss playoffs, like I know that's not something that they as an org will probably say that they're okay with, but I think that is okay because you need to, I think in some ways, reteach the type of expectations towards your fans for this team. Like there's a world-class bot laner in Sword Art there, and then you have a bunch of people who've never really played together. You know, the Lost Huni thing happened. Spica played with Lost a little bit, but like they're still trying to get all their, you know, wheels together. And there are other teams in the same boat too, but you know, people will be like, CLG barely beat TSM, and it's like, well, they're both kind of in the same boat, in my opinion. So it's like, if you're a TSM fan, you need to reevaluate your expectations for this team because they're not good enough now to make playoffs. But I don't think it's going to be a bad thing because I have faith within the staff, maybe not the management who put themselves into a bad situation in the offseason, but in the staff currently and the way that Bjergsen says that he wants to approach the game to achieve long-term growth as opposed to short-term growth.
Yeah, I think what I would say to that is, first of all, like, obviously I think some people talking about TSM is an overreaction, but I do think that there's a lot of justified reactions about TSM because, you know, when you compare it to someone like CLG is kind of at least trying out new stuff in a sense. Like, you know, they brought in RJS, who's, you know, a super fresh player. They have things that seems like it could be good, but I think for TSM, part of the reason why people are so overly disappointed is that it's not like they're really bringing in a whole lot of like rookie talent in that sense. They're not really building something from scratch. They sort of flexed how much money they're spending, saying, you know, like they have the most expensive league team. There's like the $6 million Sword Art memes. And then they picked up Huni and Power of Evil, who I don't think they're bad players or anything, but they're both kind of like very one-dimensional in how they play. Like, and so when you think about how a team's going to adapt and improve, PoE is a player who pretty much for his whole career has only really played mages. He's not the kind of guy who's going to like whip out the TF or Galio or, you know, those roam heavy like non-scaling champs too much. And then Huni's someone who's, you know, going to borderline troll anytime he has to play a tank. So I like those things on top of just how bad their games are going. It's one thing when a team loses and you feel like they played well, but when I watch TSM's games, it does not seem like they understand what's going on. Like in the CLG one, there was a situation where TSM had like 3 dragons. Oh, the 4th dragon spawning. CLG has a full setup on bot side with a poke comp, and any team in their right mind should be saying, okay, don't walk in there. Like, we can just walk to Baron. That doesn't matter if they get the dragon. We don't need this soul. We're not even stronger right now. But TSM's just like walking in and they get fucked. And so those kind of mistakes just make it seem like they literally don't know what's going on, because that's, I don't know how a pro player could see that situation and be like, yep, this is what we should be doing. So yeah, I think it is kind of justified what people are saying, because they're pretty bad right now.
Yeah, no.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go Travis. I'm sorry.
Meteos, I was going to ask you, what do you think of their drafts? Because that's actually one area that I would have thought they would have been fairly strong in. It's the type of thing where you think like, oh, Bjergsen's a very smart guy. He's been playing the game for a very long time, et cetera, et cetera. But I know that their drafts have received a lot of criticism. So
Right. I have seen a lot of weird things in their draft. A big one being, I don't know how many games it was, but I kept seeing Huni, like TSM would give up Camille and then take Gnar into it, which to me makes legit no sense because that's one of the best counters to Gnar. Like if someone blinds Gnar, you go Camille into it. And so Camille is one of the best top laners right now, and you're giving it up to give her a good matchup. And then almost every time it was going poorly. Even I think Huni got like top gapped by Niles. And then, there's stuff like the Leandri's Corgi that I talked about earlier, which it was just, I don't know, like a world record cringe pick. And then right after that game, it looks like TSM's doing better. They pick Azir, and then he does another troll build, like the Imperial Mandate tank Azir. And like, yeah, they won the game, but they were 10k gold down to CLG and should have hardcore lost. So I don't really count that one as a win either. So yeah, their drafts don't look good, and their play doesn't look good either.
TSM
Yeah,
fan, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree that their play doesn't look good. Oh, darn it! I had a point and I just lost it. Sorry.
No, it's good.
You can talk.
Mark, I mean, any kind of follow up on this stuff? I know we've kind of belabored it a bit, but if there's any final thoughts, maybe we'll give OPTSM fan a chance to rethink his moment.
Agreeing with Meteos about like the drafts haven't been great. I don't really like a lot of what they're going for. Like I don't love the scaling mages. I think control mages are obviously fine in the current meta, but the amount of Azir, Corki kind of stuff, it feels like a higher priority. And I know it's PoE, but it feels higher than a lot of other places I'm seeing it. So it's a little like, to Meteos' point, unsure of how they want to play the game to me. Because they're still being really proactive. Like Huni's roaming mid, diving at 6, killing himself. Like Sword Art's diving bot, level 6, killing himself. So like, but those are the kinds of plays where I look at and I'm like, I don't really want to blame the draft when you're doing that shit. Because like, I'm always much more concerned about what's going on in game than draft. Because I don't really know, what people's champ pools are, who's deciding what. I don't think they've hard out drafted anyone where it's like, oh my god, they win this game flat out off draft. But I think the play has been way more sus to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing I would say in TSM's defense and Bjergsen, like, I don't think it is realistic for a player to just automatically be an insane coach, just right off the bat. I think it is okay to give Bjergsen like a little bit of time to sort of get his bearing and figure out what's going on, because the way TSM looks right now, Pee-wee even said it in his interview after the CLG game, is just they're playing really chaotic, and it feels like probably everyone on the team feels probably very uncomfortable in the game. It's like you're not really doing plays that you yourself think's good. It's kind of like you just start doing what you think your teammates want you to be doing, and then it just ends up looking like a complete mess. So I can understand that. I think most pro players have probably been there in a situation where the chemistry is just terrible, and it can turn around, but not necessarily always will in time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that bot play dive onto the Alistar, who's level 6, is like the ultimate example of what you're talking about. Because no support in their right mind thinks they ever want to dive an Alistar's level 6. But like, he was just mid. You were kind of building this wave for a dive. The Alistar, you're like, oh, we're gonna punish the AD carry with a dive because the support just ganked our mid. Then it takes so long. They're like, and your team just goes for it anyways because it was like the play that you were setting up, and you should call it off. But like, I think, like Meteos said, I think most pros and coaches have been in a situation where you can just feel like the total lack of like good shot calling going on, and people just go for these kinds of plays because they feel like they're supposed to be doing them.
Right, and I think something that can help in that situation is just having like a really strong leader on the team. Someone that everyone can rally behind. But it's kind of hard because the only returning member was Spica. Their team's incredibly different from how it was before. I think everyone coming in probably feels like they have a lot of responsibility to lead the team. So I don't know. I mean, I think it is fair to give him a little bit of time, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the main thing I was going to reference is like the PoE interview, and then like people like Curry and Kays and people coming out And like everyone, at least on the staff outwardly, is admitting that there are problems and they know and they're addressing it. They're not like pushing it under the rug, which I felt like in previous forms of TSM, like either there would be like no conversation about it on social media because like it was like the Bjergsen double show or just Bjergsen, and like well, they'll win off the back of like some heroic plays and stuff like that. But like now they have to like address like endemic problems within the way that they play and approach the game. And I think that the staff people in chat are like, what staff are you confident in? K's being from TL and Fnatic and Origin, having success there, and then Curry just last year with FlyQuest and stuff like that. These are staff members who can guide and help out Bjergsen. And I also think that they obviously have talented players. It's not like these players are bad, but collectively they are playing bad. What I'm saying is just that while I can admit that they're bad as a TSM fan currently, I am not ready to just be like, 3 games in the regular season, we got to burn the ship. We got to go find someone else to coach. We got to find new players and stuff. And that's the kind of dialogue that I'm seeing on Twitter. I'm not saying they are resolved of any type of like criticism thrown their way.
Right.
I'm just saying I think that it's a little bit much right now, especially given all the new pieces and stuff.
I hear before we say goodbye to you, I'll just say, Mark and Meteos talked a lot about the gameplay, and I would just say to the expectations, this is a team that most people had in the top 4. Now, admittedly, some of those, I think, like Mark placed them number 4, I think, and that was the idea was that this is where they would end up at the end of spring. But when you have TSM come out and say like, hey, we're going to spend more than anybody else, they seemingly do. You have this world champ or this world renowned player Bjergsen retire and become coach. This is like a team that has a large pedigree, and it's during a time when we have some of the weakest teams I think we've had in the LCS in a long time, right? Like we had a bunch of these teams go to like budget, brand new development rosters. This is a team of veterans, world finalists, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's fair for people to be a little concerned when like a month in, this team looks like they are the worst team in the league, and you need CLG doing everything they can to lose to them to make it seem as though they are not the absolute worst in the league. So that's why I think it's fair for people to be very alarmed at the team that they're seeing right now. Is there anything you want to say, TSM fan? Any shout-outs or anything like that before we take a quick break?
Shout out to Hotline League and Alienware and the secret sponsor that you'll announce, as well as shout out to all the amateur scene stuff that's going on right now. Let's go give it a look. They're streaming cup stuff over on the Academy channel. That's going to be the future of NA. And go Lopes.
Thank you so much for the call. Really appreciate it. Good talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a quick break really quickly to talk about Alienware. We love Alienware. They do awesome stuff. You should go check out their M15, M17 notebooks. Mark is pulling back the veil a little bit so that you can see just the tiniest little bit of, there we go, the tower that we were able to hook up his girlfriend with. It's an Aurora, fantastic computer. Go check out their stuff at alienware.com/Travis. Use Travis10 off to save 10% on your order. I think we were having some issues with the code today, but I believe it should be resolved by the time this gets resolved, or by the time this gets up. You can also look in the description for those links if you're on YouTube. And I just want to say thank you so much to Alienware. They are an amazing partner and have been for so long. And we love them and everything that they do for us. So thank you so much to Alienware. Can't wait to get out of the pandemic so we can go do cool stuff with them again like we did before, like the live hotline leagues and all that. So thanks to Alienware, and thank you for everyone who checks them out. I'm going to put their link in the description, in the chat right now as well. So thanks again, Alienware. We love you. And by the way, it was funny because the past week we had an issue where the code, I think, was not stacking with a promo that they had running on the site. And I got so many messages from people, and it just shows me how many of you guys are actively trying to buy like an Alienware PC or product on any given day. So thank you all for the support of my sponsors. It's always fantastic to see. So thank you. Mark, you want to go grab the next caller? Oh, he already is doing it. Fantastic. Okay, while he's doing that, let me read out a couple subs. Simba, thank you for the sub. Muncelicious and Mateodo, thank you for the prime. Mark should be here any second. What are you playing lately, Meteos, besides Skull and League of Legends? Anything?
I've been playing a little Bloons TD6. Still playing some WoW.
Nice. Very good.
I think I'm playing some other random stuff
we have
too.
Anzai is here. Anzai, where are you calling from?
Orange County, California.
Orange County, California. You sound excited to be from Orange County, California.
Well, I don't really like oranges, but I guess.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is that I don't want teams to write off picks like Ignite TP Camille, even if on stage, like last week, if it gets like stomped and stuff, because I think that there is actual merit to going like flashless in lane against certain matchups.
I like that take, actually. That's definitely a pretty
As the
hot
man-
take.
It's a hot take
Citing
because
the most
everybody
hate-
kept flaming people for doing it against Blabber. C9 made a TikTok that I saw that was literally just Blabber killing people over and over again for not taking Flash.
Oh yeah, I mean, like maybe C9's not the best team to do it against because honestly, you're probably going to lose to C9 regardless of what you do. And by giving them that easy of an avenue to do it, you're kind of asking for it. But I do agree that, just because something hasn't worked yet doesn't mean that it can never work. And I do think it's an easy trap people fall into with, strategies or certain picks because, there is merit to running that on Camille. We saw, what was it? Was it
I think
Ben?
Ben played it in LPL.
Yeah, and he did it at Worlds as well. So, there's definitely merit to it. It can work. I think when I was watching it, after the third time, it was kind of like, okay, like when are you going to get it kind of thing. But the first times, it was just sort of like gross user error. Like, Niles didn't ward for a level 2 gank and got punished by it. Huni didn't use either of his wards by 4 minutes and then took an aggressive trade. So it's like, if you're going to play this, do this strategy of running Ignite, no Flash, you should probably understand how it works and what you have, like the pitfalls of it. And so, obviously these people are just making massive mistakes and getting hard punished against C9. But yeah, I think that it can work. I do think it's something that's not just auto feed for sure.
I
I
think
think,
that. Oh, sorry. Well, I was just going to say that I think the Immortals game, I think the IMT actually wanted to try it because they did the blue invade, but I think that the mistake was Blabber just outplayed Xerxes for the crab fight, and that made it end up like falling on its face. But I think that IMD kind of had the right idea because Xerxes was trying to like get space for Revenge to play the lane out, and I'll just have Blabber come up at like level 3 or 4 and just gank him.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is I think like they at least tried to cover for it with like a blue invade, probably drop a ward on the way out, and then like, hey, you're good, but he just got killed. And then under turret, which is like, hey, the wave's coming into me, perfect. When you should have ward coverage and be protected after a blue buff steal, he like walks a little too close to the wall and gets popped up during the Renekton stun. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean he's for sure dead there no matter what. I was talking to Sneaky about that one actually. Like maybe he could have played it a little better, like made them invest more, like possibly gotten a flash out of it. But something I noticed that was pretty big was I feel like it kind of came down to rune choice that Xerxes lost that 1v1 so hard because he actually had inspiration secondary. He went for Dark Harvest, which I think that's fine on Lilia. People do Phase Rush or Dark Harvest, but he also went inspiration secondary instead of sorcery, while Blabber had Dark Harvest with sorcery, which gives you that water walking, which is so big for those river fights. Because if you just watch the spacing in it, like Blabber just dodged almost every ability Xerxes used just by a tiny bit. And so maybe 25 more move speed on Lilia, a little bit more AP, and he might have not gotten potent that hard. So it's definitely, a lot of stuff's going wrong, and then the Ignite Camille's receiving the biggest part of the punishment, for sure.
I will say as well, like there's like I wonder about some of the team comp stuff too. Like in some of these games, I can see like Camille can do other things. I know the Jax matchup gets really tough, and you can use this to try and offset that if you play it well. But I think Camille with like a Galio comp would be one where I'm like, I hope you never run Ignite with that, because like Galio flash or having the Camille flash engage kind of thing with the Galio gives you such good team fighting that you're losing that. That was not an instance where anyone did it. I looked at the comps quickly, and like for the most part, none of them were like insane 5v5 comps where it's like, why don't you just take flash, try to play the lane as best you can, and then like actually be more useful in 5v5s. None of the comps really felt like that was an obvious play to go for. Overall, I don't think like the Ignite was necessarily the problem. Like Meteos said, maybe some user errors.
I was also thinking that one of the issues could be about how teams like prioritizing Camille, because I noticed that some teams like IMT did versus C9, and C9 also did this a couple of times in Lock-in when they prioritized Camille, was they banned Jax. And then I watched the VOD for some of the coachings, and in LS's VOD we interviewed Fudge. Fudge talked about how like it was easy to sort of get Camille into these positions where it was very hard for Camille to come out of it with like a win, like with champs that can control the wave, like Renekton or Jax or Fiora and stuff like that. And I was wondering if maybe if you're going to prioritize Camille, you might have to ban like Jax and Renekton in order to play it like that, or maybe stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a very good point too, because I think part of what is leading to them needing to take Ignite is just getting into these bad matchups. And something that I'm a little surprised isn't more common by now, but it seems like 100 Thieves and C9 are the only teams comfortable enough to actually pick Jax into Camille. A lot of time people pick, I don't know, any number of weird stuff like Gragas or I don't know, just random
Gnar.
stuff that, yeah, Gnar, exactly. Random stuff that's not Jax or Renekton, which those are the lane counters to Camille. And so when you're in that situation, it's like, okay, do I take Flash on Camille, which makes me a little bit safer to ganks, but I'm going to have a really terrible time in lane, because although Camille is a very strong champion, she has some bad matchups. Like, she can get to a point where she can't farm, which we saw in like a Fudge versus Someday, that one game where Fudge won it on Camille being down like 100 CS at 10 minutes or something insane. So definitely a drafting error. I think that what a lot of teams were doing was taking Camille in a point where C9 is just going to immediately counterpick it. So a way they probably could have done it, for example, like in the Immortals game, rather than taking Camille in your 1-2 on red, you could just like save it for third pick. That way, if C9 wants to take Camille blind, you can take the Renekton into it, you can take the Jax into it, or if they don't take Camille, you take Camille on 3, and then you can ban Renekton Jax to cover it. So that's usually what people do with that kind of pick, and I think that would definitely make it go a lot better.
I wonder if some of the picks too were also like thinking that with Camille up, C9 would take it, and then when it falls to them 1-2 or something. I still think you would expect them to prioritize Talia over Camille, but just feeling like, oh shit, okay, we got this pick. It's one of the best tops in the meta. Take it right away. And you kind of just like off priority of like who you think is the best top, you kind of fall to it on default without, like you said, really thinking about the counter pick coming in and stuff. I wonder if that was just people not wanting to give the Camille over to C9. And it's like kind of a takeaway pick and a high priority pick without really thinking enough about what's going to happen in game or like what's going to be the counter pick.
I think for some teams, they might be drafting with like a comp in mind without really caring about what's in drafts, because when IMT drafted Lilia on R2, I was kind of confused because I thought they would take the Talia, but I guess they wanted the Lilia, and then they drafted Ori on R3, so I think they came into the game wanting to pick Camille Ori as their like combo, because that's like pretty strong. But C9 just picks Renekton Talia on our B2, B3, which kind of I wasn't sure what if IMT came into the game wanting to draft Camille Ori, or if they wanted to respond to what C9 was picking.
Yeah. Well, I I guess we'll have to sort of see how things play out with this in the future. But I do appreciate the take, especially because so many people were just like, just take Flash. So thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we move on to the next caller?
I just want to shout out that I think that Smite Ghosts in support is a pretty good pick still. So that's about it.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey, bye.
Bye.
We're good up until that last one.
Okay, Mark, you want
I
to
actually, I thought what he was saying was pretty good. You know, that's a good take for this kind of show. Something that's actually true in my opinion. Like, I don't think Ignite Camille is terrible. I think it can work, but people doing it, not doing it so well.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. It's very funny too, because chat will just always have the weirdest perspectives on things too, in comparison to the callers. And sometimes we have a hard time where it's like, do the callers want, or does the chat just want callers that will say everything they agree with already? Because that's kind of like a not fun show. So people doing that. Sakowitz is here. Sakowitz, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Dallas.
Dallas. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I want to talk about why CLG is going to end up turning it around by summer, and they'll be a top 4 team.
Oh boy! Okay,
By
so
summer.
this is going to be one of those ones where Twitch chat gets.
Now listen.
Yeah,
I'm a
okay.
CLG fan. You're probably
really?
wondering how I ended
I
up in
didn't
this
expect
situation.
that.
Oh, it sounds like an unbiased take.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I think I'm
absolutely.
looking forward
Now,
to the level
I'm
headed.
kind of
How
conditioned
many
to have
of
faith
their-
every year, but this one I'm actually very excited.
How many of you are there left?
Oh, that's a tough question. It's probably like 6. That's my
Okay.
best guess. I'm really not sure.
It's you and like
Um,
5 other people just chilling. Okay, so Jack in
Jack
chat
with the
says
dozens.
dozens. Yeah. Okay, so they're gonna become a top 4 team. Who are the other 3 teams with them in the summer?
Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, and Cloud9.
Okay. All right. So
I think
TSM.
4th is probably their limit with the roster that I'm considering, but so
Do you-
CLG State isn't great, and it hasn't been for a long time. But this season was kind of a soft reset for them. It was basically just to get back into where we can win. We may not win, but we can. And
Okay. Really quickly though,
Yeah.
you have more faith in CLG than you do in TSM.
100%.
Because our first call, and we all agreed TSM looks like garbage right now. And guess what? CLG just lost to them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
They lost to TSM. That's
Okay.
absolutely correct.
I'll shut up. Go ahead. Teach
Yeah,
me. How's
a
this
few
going to happen?
things. So CLG is still missing an entire player, and because of that, they're one of the few organizations that is one of the only. I think they're the only organization currently taking advantage of the current LCS format, which allows them to sub someone in early to experiment with their roster to improve on next time. When Broxa eventually comes in and gets that leadership and brings that leadership and experience to help tie together with Smoothie and Wild Turtle on how to actually end the games that they're performing well early in, overall, I think CLG will end up becoming a really successful team. Additionally, with the additions of RJS being subbed in, he looks pretty incredible. He's certainly making some pretty obvious mistakes, but game by game, watching in order from Dig to what was the second one, 100 Thieves, and then to TSM, he's making less and less of them. Mistakes are there, but you can visually see him improving.
Does that
Not
mean
only
he's
that,
incredible?
I think he looks pretty darn good for a rookie. Well, I say rookie mid laner. He was mid, then he swapped back to top,
Sure.
then he swapped back to mid. But
Okay, sorry. Continue. I shouldn't have derailed you.
Griffin also looks immensely better than last season, giving me hope that CLG's development has improved a lot since the last few years. And yeah, I think once Broxa's here, and if RJS keeps improving as he is, after MSI, I think they'll be in talks in top 4.
Okay.
All right, go ahead and roast me.
Very, very hot take. I feel like my keyboard and monitor are like glowing
They're
red
smoking.
a little bit.
Oh no, we're gonna lose Meteos. His computer's gonna overheat.
My faith
Yeah.
is too hot for you to handle.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of optimism. I respect the optimism for sure. Sticking with your boys. I am less optimistic about CLG's chances. I think that the visa issue for Brox is pretty big. I don't know how that keeps happening to him. It's pretty
So
unlucky,
unfortunate.
but yeah, like you said, if they're looking for him to be a leader in the team, having your leader there is definitely going to go a long way toward like building team chemistry and whatnot. And also the situation with Pobelter is really weird to me because like the way that it sort of was announced wasn't even close to an announcement. It was just Turtle casually being like, "Yeah, uh, bad attitude with the coaches," and that's sort of like,
And
if I'm a
Meteos likes
CLG
it
fan,
when
doesn't
people
inspire a whole lot of confidence.
Meteos
It
likes it
makes
when
it,
people announce departures in very professional ways from teams or benchings.
yeah, totally. Um, yeah, it's definitely making it seem like the team isn't super chill behind the scenes. Seems like they've definitely been running into issues, and I can't imagine these massive throw losses are helping them too much. I think maybe what they have going for them is sort of like they can get, one of those honeymoon phases, if you will, when they bring Pobelter back. Because I will agree, RJS has looked decent in these games. I think especially his early mid game is pretty solid, but I have been noticing his team fighting is fairly weak. And even in the TSM game, he really wasn't getting very much meaningful poke done on Zoe, and it was also him who got caught at the very end. Um, well, maybe
Yeah.
not the very end, but led to TSM being able to get that Baron.
Yeah, him
So
getting caught has resulted in two. It was also the reason they lost the dig game, right, with TF
right,
up
exactly,
in top
and
lane.
that stuff's gonna happen. He's like you said, a rookie player, and he was playing top lane before, so it's a pretty understandable mistake in my opinion. But it does sort of mean to me that I don't know if he's necessarily ready to be competing up against LCS mids because the people you're playing against are really, really damn good. Even if he's like a solid player who maybe in a year or two can, you know, be competing for one of the better players, I think right now he's still probably a little too green. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe if Broxah and Pobelter come back and they have like some better late game shot calling, they could close out some of their games. But their decision making, like I said earlier, is just it feels like they're looking to lose. Like I don't know. It seems like there's only one decision you can make to lose a game in a lot of these, and they're finding it time and time again.
They're
So it's it's a little difficult for me to watch at times, especially that TSM one, man. I was like, are they really gonna let TSM get a win this game? Like,
All
you're
they had
gonna
to do was
let
fight for the ocean,
PoE,
Drake. That's all they had to do.
you're gonna let PoE get late enough into the game that he has to sell his troll item to get a real item. That's that's how bad you threw this game. Like you unintentionally let this guy recover his troll build. So
I
I don't
I
know.
I just want to read so that on January 17th, I tweeted, and I think this is week 2 of the lock-in tournament. You almost wonder if CLG or was it week 1? I said you almost wonder if CLG should have subbed their entire academy in for lock-in because now they're going to start LCS in a pretty tilted state. That's what Immortals ended up doing later. Their analyst replied to me and said, "Is it a bit strange to speculate on the morale of a team without any actual basis? It's always tough to lose, but the boys are in actually pretty good spirits, and we now know what to focus on in scrims going forward, and we're confident we'll improve." 2 weeks later, they benched Pobelter for bad attitude. So, I mean, maybe they were on January 17th, but I feel vindicated a little bit in this tweet.
I think so. Like, I agree with a lot of Meteos' points about RJS. Like, actually not being that bad. Like, he's more or less playing fine for someone put into that position. But like, even if he improves and becomes like even better and doesn't throw the games personally himself, the actual decision making is still pretty questionable right now. Maybe they don't lose the TSM game, but the 100 Thieves one and some of the other mistakes that is happening is going to cost them games down the road too. And I don't think his individual improvement is going to matter that much on that level. I think the benching is super weird because the only like official wording that came out from the CLG organization, as far as I'm aware, was a tweet that was, like hey, we're using this time to experiment with our roster, and they just did not address anything. Turtle said. They just glazed over. Like, you benched the player, and they're like, no, we're promoting RJS. And it's like, you can try and sell me, this gallon, like a half full thing. And like, I don't think so, dude. Like,
we're promoting him for week 1 of LCS, right? Like,
yeah.
it's,
And it just
what a
so
quick
happens
promotion.
that this other effect is that Pobelters. Yeah. It's like, I would feel a lot better about the team if I had like more visibility into like the actual, because it just feels like they're just not acknowledging like this thing that a bunch of people have seen now from what the Turtle interviews. So one, I think morale is probably bad. I know this, like, don't speculate, but like, shit, I don't know. You benched a player. You guys did not look happy on the player cams. It looks pretty sad boys over there. You don't have great decision making and coordination. It's not just on the side of RJS. Like Finn on the Gragas missed so many barrels. Like, it was insane. I thought Nocturne was blinding him too.
So messed up.
I think there was a bug. Nocturne must have been blinding him as well.
I guarantee you it would have been better for Finn to not use his ult that game than use his ult the way he did. It was like every time they had these insane Rel Ori combos, and then he's like, yo, my turn, just throws his ult, knocks them all away, they just walk away. It was so hard to watch.
If he was Night Harbor Gragas, maybe you could justify it for like getting that burst in there, but he was full tank Gragas, just blowing people away.
That last one with the Elder, Nocturne has Kai'Sa, no flash, in a fear tether, and he just Gragas ults him out of it. It was so bad.
Yeah, so like,
I wonder if they're going to bring back CLG fighting this year. Their little
the team series. I doubt it.
Yeah.
I don't know, but either way, I guess my point is like, there's legitimate issues with this team beyond like the mid situation. The way I look at this is like, how many more times are you gonna get these massive leads realistically? Because there's gonna be tough games. There's gonna be games where you're not 5K up at 20 minutes and then you throw. Like, you're gonna have to play from even or behind and try and get back into the games, and you're losing these ones when you have the big advantages. When Broxa shows up, he's not gonna be a cure-all. We saw that last year when Team Liquid was struggling. Broxa shows up, and it's like, oh, great, I just, like that, you arrive to the house on fire kind of thing. He's not going to be able to fix all their problems by himself, and I don't think he deserves to have that expectation put on him again.
Do you think this means Pobelter ends up on TSM for summer?
I don't know.
Just based off of...
I think I missed a jump somewhere.
That's a double lift reference to Broxa last year. And
CLG Pro 2017. We'll trade Pobelter for Power of Evil.
I'm shorting CLG, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't think it's getting better.
Meteos, I know we're not supposed to speculate on morale, but during your time as a pro player, your experience, what is morale usually like on a team after a game like that TSM CLG one where CLG loses that? Are people usually in good spirits?
Yeah, I feel so good after that. I'm like, dude, we were so close to getting a win, but yeah, we got the loss. I was worried we were going to win that one. We did a great job. We came together. We managed to throw it hard. No, they're probably pretty upset. But then it's one of those things where it's like, you put on your fake smiles. You're like, well, at least we got big early game advantages from their Imperial Mandate Azir kind of thing. And it's just like, oh, man. Then you start thinking about it, and it just gets worse. So, I don't know.
I'll give you the positive. They got a lot of fantasy points. I got their bot lane on my fantasy team with those long-ass games and like getting so far ahead and getting so many Drakes. I actually got so many points from them, so that was actually pretty dope.
One thing I will add, though, about Broxa is I think he's someone that might actually have more of an impact on the team than people give him credit for, because when he did come into Liquid, I think they actually had a really good record in summer, didn't they? They were like 15-3 or something. And so I think Broxa received a ton of criticism on Liquid, even when they were winning, because maybe he's not like the flashiest looking player. Maybe he just didn't, like he said himself, he wasn't given a whole lot of resources on the team. I know that, probably the way TL wanted to play was, very laner focused, not trying to get the jungler ahead. So maybe on CLG, if they have a different mindset and Broxa feels a little bit more comfortable in the situation, he can do some good stuff, because he has been a really good player in the past. I think that his reputation right now is a little bit worse than he deserves, for sure. So I think that is probably the hope I would hold on to as a CLG fan, is that Mr. Broxa can save the day.
I just feel so bad for him, because I feel like on TL, like, he showed up, he had to deal with all that stuff. He was like, I remember interviewing him and how depressed he was that he had to move to LA, and suddenly like that right he got here right in time for the LCS to like go remote. So then suddenly he's like shut in. Then like TL still goes to Worlds, but everyone keeps shitting on him. And then he now is like, okay, well, I'm going to go to CLG. I can build this team. I'm going to do it. And then like he just has these issues, and meanwhile the team is on fire. And like I feel so bad for them. He's like the nicest guy in the world to have this stuff happen. It's such a bummer. Sakowitz, I think it's none of us believe that they're going to be a top 4 team, and I think that your take is very, very unlikely. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Us
Stay
6
strong,
remaining
man.
CLG
Stay
fans will have the faith.
They need their fans.
All 6 of you. Anyway, thanks so much, Sakowitz. Anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
Shout out to Alienware because they sponsor the show and amazing. Shout out to Leche Lauren, the LCS Observer Extraordinaire and Challengers Uprising broadcast boy. And that's about it.
Very good. Thank you. Shout out to Leche Lauren. Thank you so much, Sakowitz. All right. So it is time for an announcement to take place. I'm very excited about it. So for podcast listeners, I'm about to play a video. I apologize because some of it won't translate over to you. Feel free to just pull over to the side of the road, drop whatever you're doing, load up the YouTube video and find this exact moment. But the premise behind this is that it takes place in January of 2020, so you won't see the text at the beginning. But I'm going to mute Discord now, Mark and Meteos. I'll see you guys on the other side, and here we go. Hey man, how's it going?
Good, just chilling.
You excited for the new year now that we're getting back into it?
Yeah, I mean, 2020 is looking real good. We have one team that finally looks like they're going to be able to compete internationally. So
yeah, I mean, I'm excited to go to China for the 10-year anniversary, and then even just outside of the games themselves, I'm just excited for a whole bunch of stuff that's hitting this year. You know?
Sure.
Anyway, let's get into this. So obviously, we have to kind of review Hotline League, where we're at, and I think it's pretty good. I think we've been doing a great job, but I have some notes here for you if you're open to feedback. I know you're always open to feedback, Mark.
Well, let's hear it, and then maybe we'll see how open I am.
Okay, well, listen, I've noticed it doesn't seem like you're always very focused or like you're paying attention to what's happening on the show, and sometimes during the calls I just notice you like zoning out. I don't know if this is something you're aware of, but it's definitely like feedback I've seen online.
I mean, maybe, but some of the calls are just bad. What do you want me to do?
I get it, but it looks bad when you are not like you're falling asleep. You're not really there.
All right, you got it. 100% focus this year. I'll give you 200%.
Great. I'm happy and hopeful. I hope you mean that honestly. I think it's pretty good. I think we've been doing a great job, but I have some notes here for you. It doesn't seem like you're always very focused or like you're paying attention to what's happening on the show.
Some of the calls are just bad.
I get it, but it looks bad when you are falling asleep. You're not really there.
All right, you got it. 100% focus this year. I'll give you 200%.
Well, nothing last year went according to plan, including your promise that you would be more diligent while participating in the show.
What do you want me to do? The world was on fire. I can't focus on some buffoons talking about their takes when I have to check social media and see what else is going wrong.
First off, they're not buffoons. They're wonderful people. Secondly, I just need you to actually pay attention. Do you think that you could get some more energy?
I can try, but I'm just tired all the time.
All right, whatever. We can focus on that later. We need to actually figure out what to do about adding another sponsor. We want to add another sponsor to the show, and we got 6,000 applicants like every time TGI opens up applications. So first off, let me just name off a couple. You tell me if anyone feel like a good brand fit.
All right, hit me.
All right, so we've got a couple luxury automobile manufacturers.
Yeah, good call. My car is definitely not just dead in an alleyway from not driving it.
High fashion.
You and me are going to revolutionize the walkway, man.
This one is a yacht club. Okay, whatever. There's got to be something that's like a good fit. We need to find something that can, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I just want some product that I'm actually going to use.
Wait, holy moly, I just figured out a solution to both of these problems. Well, Mark, what do you think? Can NA actually win this year?
I mean, yeah, I'm definitely someone who's usually more of a pessimist about this kind of question if NA is going to do well at Worlds. But this time around, I actually think there's a number of good teams who can actually compete. We had a number of big name imports. I think there's some super.
Hey there. I just want to say thank you because I am officially a Mountain Dew Game Fuel ambassador, as you can see. I don't know if that's the terminology they're using for me. Whatever. Anyway, the point is, a lot of people say I couldn't have done this without you. And that, it's like a phrase. But this actually is true. And I want to explain the story about how this all happened. Because if you go and you look at the Game Fuel site, you'll notice that they tend to... Well, I'm a little outside of the group of folks that they tend to usually partner with. And I really appreciate that they've done this. But it all begins last May. So I think it was around May when a game came out and there was a little deal that you could do on Twitch to play the game and drink Game Fuel. And I don't normally drink energy drinks. I don't like them. They're not normally something I enjoy. They're just not my thing. But I tried Game Fuel for the sponsorship, and I really, really liked it. I really liked it so much that I went to go find cases of it. And this was early on in the situation we're in now, and it was just really difficult to find at the time because it was just sold out and supply was weird and all that stuff. But I'd go out and try to find these things like crazy, and I started to think, wow, it'd be really cool if I could get sponsored by them because they're the first beverage that I can think of that I would ever want to be sponsored by. And so a couple things happened. One, I hit up Kelby, who works with me on the sales stuff. Some of you guys might know him from his appearances on Hotline League. And he said that he would go talk to them. But still, I was kind of like outside of their normal group. And so then I staged like a fun little thing where I streamed a couple different times while drinking Game Fuel. And I asked you all to take screenshots of it and tweet at them and say, hey, I just saw this guy drinking Game Fuel, and I'm curious where I could buy some. And you did it. Quite a few of you did it, in fact. And they got their attention. I know from talking to Kelby that was one of the things early on that they noticed. And so then that sort of took the beginning of the conversation to a good place. And then over the course of the rest of 2020, we were able to continue conversations. And so when 2021 hit and we were looking for new partners and they were looking for new partners, we were able to do this. So anyway, it's been quite fun going through the process with them. I'm really excited to have them on board. It's fantastic. And I'm really, really happy to have a partner that makes a product that I really like. So thank you so much to Game Fuel for that. Thank you to all of you for helping make this happen. Shout out to Kelby as well. And you can go to gamefuel.com to check them out and use code Travis to save at checkout. And by the way, that really would help me out because I love for them to just see that people are trying the product and ordering it as part of this. So if you do decide to do that, I really, really appreciate it. And feel free, if you end up getting it, to tweet at them and let them know. But yeah, code Travis will save you some money and it'll help them know that you are doing it in support of their support of Hotline League and so much of what I do here. So thanks again to Game Fuel and all of you for helping to make this happen. Hello, we're back. I just played a very long video, so I'm not going to spend another 5 minutes talking about it. But thank you to everyone that made this possible. It's I forgot to mention it's a year-long deal. So it's quite an extended one. Mark, you have some right now. Oh, wait, you're muted. Yeah, sorry. There you go. Now you can hear me. But either way, yeah, it's a year-long deal. So it's really great to have them come on as a long-term sponsor. Tons of people throwing out subs in the chat, which I really appreciate. What I appreciate less is the people who helped me do this, spitting in Twitch chat, we scammed them. Scammed Game Fuel. We're not celebrating scamming Game Fuel, everyone, okay? Very excited about this. So thank you to Game Fuel. Thank you to everybody, and let's grab our next caller.
Celebrate the sponsorship the only way with the cat shot.
Great. Now everybody's going to get themselves timed out, Mark. By the way, we've got some cool stuff that we're going to do with them. I'm not going to talk about it on this episode, but we'll talk more about it next episode. Ways that callers can actually win Game Fuel with us, which is kind of a cool thing. Okay, Mark is grabbing the next caller right now. How's it going, Meteos? I appreciate that you stuck. I thought you were going to get up and go get something or whatever, do something, and you stuck around to watch the video.
How could I miss out on that high tier porn level acting?
Thank you. That's how I needed to have that video described, as my sponsors are watching the announcement. Revive is here. Revive, where are you calling from?
Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Atlantic City. And what do you want to talk about on the show?
TSM, and that they're pretty bad.
Okay. So this is the foil to
Jake. Whoa,
the
slow
call
down.
earlier. So go ahead, break it down for us.
They played pretty bad, and I think there's a lot of blame being passed around, but it should be passed at TSM management. You go huge with Sword Art, and you spend millions of dollars on a support, and you go top lane, and you kind of go budget value with Huni. You had Broken Blade, and you want an NA resident, and you have Licorice and Impact both available, but you go with Huni instead. So you either put too much resources in your support, or you just had bad decision making picking up Huni over two proven better players. And with Lost at AD carry, you have FBI, you have Johnson available, and you have these teams who are like handicapped by the the NBA coronavirus thing, and you don't capitalize on it. So you have the biggest roster turnover, like you made some videos on. And I know it's like hindsight and it's kind of like cringe. It's only like week 1, but there were so many good players available, and TSM was in prime position to pluck some grade A talent, but they kind of got these 5 players who aren't performing well, and expectations should be high, but people are kind of just like making excuses that they're performing poorly.
Who would you have liked to have seen them pick up?
Impact, Licorice, or FBI and Johnson at an AD carry. And maybe not even Sword Art. I think it's a bad decision. It's so much money where he's not being very impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Sword Art situation was a little weird. I was trying to figure it out with TSM because I was under the belief that they were trying to get a really good support for Double Lift. And so it seemed like they were in talks with Sword Art, and then Double Lift bailed. He was like, nah, I actually don't want to play anymore. So then they still ended up getting Sword Art, but then they didn't have Double Lift. So it was kind of like they just had to go with Lost at that point.
It also, it's weird to think that a support is worth even that kind of money as a positional play. I think is even a thing to like consider. I mean, Sword Art has an incredible pedigree, both with his time on Flash Wolves and obviously most recently with Suning. I know a lot of people who watch LPL, will say that there were a number of other LPL supports who were better than him over the course of that split during like regular season and playoffs and stuff. So I can understand like the whole, maybe they should have got someone else kind of thing. But even that aside, it feels like everyone's hoping that their support import like would be like Core JJ, but I don't know how realistic of a thing that is to expect. And a lot of import supports have not worked out to nearly that level. If you just look at like the history of them, and most of them have not been like Korean supports. It's been a lot, I think, more European ones. But even then, I think it's worth questioning. Like, it's like you get the best kicker in football, but you pay $10 million for him. It's like, is that even like arguably a wise investment? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money. I'm a little curious about the Huni being a budget pickup because, I have no idea what he's making on TSM, but when he was on Dig, a couple of years back, he had that, completely monstrous salary, like 1.25 million a year or something like that. So I don't know if they went with Huni just due to financial reasons, like trying to budget, because they're saying they're spending the most money out of any team on their roster. So it doesn't seem like budgeting was one of their primary concerns.
Yeah, I think to the caller's point though, like do we feel like the TSM management or like the back office, whatever you want to call it, like did the best thing that they could have with the money? Or it's always hard to backseat, I think, this kind of stuff because you don't know how contract negotiations are going and stuff. But from a fan perspective, I think it's understandable to be like, hey, if money wasn't an issue, like this is not an acceptable kind of level of performance so far.
I think people were skeptical about the Huni pickup, which made sense because he's had a controversial couple of years in the LCS in terms of his performance. And so you kind of hope that like, okay, well, maybe TSM sees something in him that a lot of the fans haven't, or he's going to actually step up in a way that he hasn't previously, at least from the perception of people. And I don't think people don't seem to be thinking like, oh man, Hooney's doing everything he can for this. And I mean, I think what's sad too is people seem to be turning to be more skeptical now. Like what's happening is the opposite with PoE, for instance, where people who thought PoE was really good, like Jensen even talked about how in the offseason, once Bjergsen retired, people are like, well, PoE's really good. He could actually be a Jensen rival. And now people seem to not be very impressed with him. Meteos in particular does not like his builds. And so,
well, I mean,
PoE's
good, but he would be so much better if he didn't just have this compulsion to be an edgelord. Like, if he could just save those builds for solo queue. You know, be like, okay, guys, this is actually an LCS match. I'll take this one seriously. Like, if he could just be a little bit more, like, rather than trying the really edgy builds on the mages, just, you know, try out some of the other champions. Because one thing that I think is a little odd that TSM went that direction is because a lot of the games where Spica actually looked really good last year was with Bjergsen playing, you know, those kind of selfless mid lane champions that enable your team, because Bjergsen is known as being kind of like the carry of TSM, but actually in a lot of their games he was on, you know, Galio, and even in the beginning of the season Fiddlesticks, and then that, like, being able to roam with Spica and make all these plays was allowing TSM to get these huge advantages, you know, either for Broken Blade or Double Lift. But now, you know, you've got someone who's pretty much set on being a mage player, someone who likes farming, going for the late game picks, and that honestly makes Spica's job that much harder, because when you don't have mid prio, when you don't even have like the ability to 2v2 with your mid laner early, it sort of limits your options and what you can do. And I've seen Spica getting some flame for TSM's games, but honestly, like, he's still looked pretty good to me. I don't feel like he's been in a situation where he's had a whole lot of opportunity to, you know, make these game-winning plays happen. So I think the management could definitely be questioned. Just going that route for sure seems kind of odd. Well, and if you did want to go with the PoE route, like, I don't think he's a bad player by any stretch, but I think you would want to, you know, pick up a player more like Impact, who is going to be a selfless top, and then your whole game plan could be like, okay, we're just going to play around mid entirely, which is kind of what FlyQuest did when they made it to Worlds last year. Like, Santorin ganks mid a ton.
Never
the rest of their
top.
team, yeah, exactly. The rest of their team just set up PoE so well for success. So it definitely seems like they have a lot of different ideas going on, and I think it'll help if they can find some identity. But yeah, going off your point of the managers, doesn't seem like they were setting them up for immediate success for sure.
Let me ask both of you guys, Mark and Meteos. Let's say this team figures out how to play well together. Do you think that the talent that is here with the players that are on it, that even if they figure out like their whatever communication issues, they're, you know, making the right calls and all that stuff, that they have the mechanics and the skill and the players in the roster to be able to be a top team in the LCS?
I think individually, sure. Yeah, I mean,
because I think if the answer is yes.
Yeah, you know, I've seen all of these players have good games. You know, I think I'm not really questioning whether it's possible for them to individually do their job or anything like that. More just, comes down to team cohesion and who's going to be the one like making the sacrifices for the rest of the team.
So then we agree. I mean, if that's the case, then it sounds like this could be a top team. Like, they just need to figure out how to play as a team, and we're good. You don't necessarily need to make roster changes if people can figure out how to work together. Is the sense I'm getting?
Yeah, I think having players develop new playstyles though is sometimes difficult, and it shouldn't be understated that, like, hey, reinventing yourself as a player, or like, you know, just doing a new role that you're usually are not what your primary skill set is. You know, like those can be difficult. Like PoE, playing assassins and Galio and TF and some of the stuff like Meteos was saying, like, that's not just like going to come overnight kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's definitely comfortable with his style. It doesn't seem like he's really looking to branch out. He's just looking to make that work, which, you know, it's fine if the if the team can work around it. But somebody's probably got to make a shift.
Yep. Well, Revive. It's an interesting situation here because I think that you are pretty disappointed, but Meteos and Mark, it sounds like they agree that the team might have some issues, but the players are maybe not the problem. I don't know. I'm kind of trying to reconcile the sort of the take plus.
I think if I was going to wrap it up, I'd say like TSM can always improve. The players are individually fine, but this combination of players does not make any intuitive sense when you look at how they all approach the game and stuff. And I think you're seeing some of that problems on the Rift, as well as the fact that it's 5 new players who have never played together. So I think I think it's fair to say that the players deserve more time to try and figure out their synergy, but it's also kind of an uphill battle with just how the entire roster is constructed.
Well, I guess we'll see. Any thoughts, Revive?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I just think, Huni, Impact and Licorice are both individually talented players. I feel like it would just be easier with Impact, who's like a stable player, and he's proven time and time again he's good internationally. Like, if money wasn't an issue, why not just go with him? It seems like a simple, NA resident, easy option. But Huni just seems so weird to me, and there's a lot of 80 carries available. Like FBI he was the best 80 carry. He kind of stomped TSM. Why not?
Because they wanted to all play together again. From what I understand, there's like no, unless they just got to Golden Guardians roster, but I don't think that because they still thought they're gonna.
FBI was theoretically, they could have gone to Golden Guardians and said, because I'm almost certain
Doublelift hadn't retired yet when you would have wanted to start these conversations.
Yeah, that's true.
So it doesn't even really make sense on a timeline level.
Okay. Yeah, and
maybe that's part of the reason they were frustrated with him.
Who?
All the statements apparently, or even Doublelift stories seem to be that there was frustration between TSM and Doublelift on his way out, and so it'd be interesting if that was a contributing thing. We're just speculating, but sorry. Go ahead, Revive.
Yeah. That was just major mismanagement too. Doublelift wants Sword Art, they get Doublelift retires and they get Sword Art a week later. So it's like, what happened? They got the guy. It's good.
I think they announced it a day later.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really bad management. I just wish if you're gonna go one direction, you get Doublelift and Sword Art, and then if Doublelift retires, and you have treats, right? So you get treats lost, or it just seems like they're kind of. It just seems like it's just so weird. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Is
anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
No, just a shout out. I actually bought a new computer. I don't really know much about computers, but you said Alienware was good, so I bought one of these Alienware computers. It works pretty good.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear it's working pretty good. I appreciate it.
Hasn't blown up yet.
Yeah. And that's what you know what? Buy what I suggest because it works pretty good. I think that's
throwing away water. So just Mountain Dew Game Fuel from now.
Yes. Oh God, we're already getting the shout outs for people on that. I love to hear it. Anyway, thank you so much, Revive. Have a good rest of your evening.
You too.
Yeah.
You kept killing my attempt to do a fucking first law quote.
What? Oh, you were trying to do a quote?
Say one thing for Alienware computers. Say they won't explode on you.
Oh yeah. That's a literary reference for the people that are not educated like Mark and myself. By the way, ton of people. Thank you, Meteos, for those. Ton of people subbed during the big announcement. Steve, Cthulhu, for Kobe, Mahmood's Open Window, iBrad, C9 Fudge,
Window,
Yuma Street, Easy Stay Safe. I saw LS, by the way. LS was cheering people on to sub and also spamming the Game Fuel bot, which I appreciate. So LS, if you're still here, it's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Pokemonster Monsta 433, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm from Ottawa, Ontario.
Ottawa, Ontario. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Okay, so basically, Immortals are really well coached, really well drafted, and they're going to be our 3rd seed at Worlds this year. They're going to improve that much.
Wow. Okay, so far we've had CLG is going to be top 4, and then now we've got Immortals is going to be top 3.
Yeah, so it's
okay. So who are the other 2 teams?
Immortals and then CLG. Well, the other two are obviously Team Liquid and then Cloud9.
Okay. So 100, they're going to be better than 100 Thieves, EG, and TSM, which I think are a lot of the teams that people would expect to maybe be in those spots. Okay, so why...
Well, FlyQuest as well.
Yeah. So why are you so confident in Immortals?
Okay. Yeah, do you want me to talk about why Immortals is so good or why the other teams won't improve?
Let's start with Immortals.
Okay. So they're not afraid to try things at all. Like they've picked 2 completely fresh picks this week, being the Lucian and the Ivern. And they're always like, I mean, they're trying new things even if they're not fresh. They're one of the very few teams who've let things through in draft, like the Pantheon and the Olaf. And they always like have a plan for it too. They're not just like messing around and letting random stuff through. The team or the coaches are very focused on improvement, not on wins. They've been clear about that on social media. They've been clear about that just in the way that they play. And they play around every player. So I think everyone is going to get good. They're not like, some top laners who are new may be picking like only tanks. They've put Revenge on very interesting picks every single time. Stuff like that.
Immortals to the moon. Okay, so then why are the other teams... I want to be careful because I don't want to spend like 5 minutes on each team, but why are you skeptical of these other teams?
Okay, so how many of these teams really have like a high improvement ceiling? Evil Geniuses, I think it's pretty clear that like everyone's pretty old, definitely could get better. Jizuke is kind of smurf, but we'll see. Who else is like...
100T?
FlyQuest is 100 Thieves. Okay, yeah. So 100 Thieves, they've been together for a while. I think people underestimate Demonte. He could get better, but he has been around for a while. FBI and who he's been around forever. Like they're kind of seeing a second resurgence, but do I see them getting a lot better? Someday's also been around for a while. I don't know. Like I feel that Immortals is much better drafted. Zix and Freeze aren't terrible coaches, but like, oh my god, I can go through like how genius their drafts are, and I would like to, if that's okay at some point. But yeah, I feel that the draft diff, and I mean, the Immortals players have all been sort of, aside from Insanity and Revenge, who are new, fresh, Reyes and Destiny have been considered some of the best in their role in their region. Cherche, even on a 10th place team, everyone was like, oh my god, this guy is best jungler in the league. So I think they have a higher presumed cap.
Okay.
I don't think I agree about Xerxes being considered the best jungler in their league at that point. He had some good moments. I think it was in 2019, 2 years ago. But I think last year he struggled. And even if he was still playing well, I think like, Yankos and some of the other self-made, like some of the other junglers were still pretty clearly considered the best in Europe. Also, I mean, I think I'm hot on Immortals. Like I actually think they're going to improve a lot. I like their coaching staff. I believe that they'll be able to improve quite a bit. And Revenge has looked really good so far compared to his academy season last year. I think he's been really good. That Ivern game was a bit of a whoopsie.
He only died once. He had 10 assists. Like KDA wise, he looked good.
Yeah, but like I was a little caught up on that part because, okay, so I do agree with the coaching thing. I met Andre, their coach, when I was on 100 Thieves in was it like last year, 2 years ago? Well, we boot camped in Denmark and we stayed in the Origin facility, and so I really like their coach. I think he's a super smart guy, great coach.
Yeah, I like him a lot too.
For their drafts, I don't know if I'm as sold on them being insane drafts because like that Ivern top honestly felt like a troll pick to me. Maybe it's an okay pick and Revenge didn't play it well, but when somebody blind picks Gangplank and you're down like 50 CS and 5 plates in the lane without really getting ganked, I don't think it's a very good pick. Like Gangplank is supposed to get punished when he's blinded. Like you're not supposed to blind Gangplank. And not only is he getting away with it, he's smashing. And it was Niles too, who's I'm not to say he's not a good Gangplank or anything like that, but he's a rookie. It's not like you're up against Alfari's Gangplank or something like that. So I'm a little
Should we let
unsure about that one.
I think
Pokey
I
said
have
that
a
they
really
wanted to
cool
go through the
draft
draft.
point.
So
Yeah.
is this a good time for them to talk to me?
Specifically that one. I think the Ivern, it was a last pick. I think it's okay because you're up against 4 range champs, and then obviously having the pop a bush down ability lets you win auto attack fights, which Kaisa kind of wants to be able to do. But you have like a really strong desire for shields because Olaf can kind of just get through all of like Hecarim can't peel, Orianna can't peel, and you don't have like super mobile carries on Orianna and Kaisa. Kaisa can be, but so having just the extra shield on Ivern can be kind of useful, and again the bush. So I think it was probably pre-planned to stop the Olaf, and then they were okay with using it against the ranged. I do agree that it didn't work out, but having a tank like Ivern top into Niles, who's going to be probably too aggressive because he's been playing like that, he's got something to prove. I think it's not a terrible idea, and they saved the kill lane for well, it's not really a lane, but they saved like Shurshay to be like the super fed person. He's up against Iconic, who's probably the least proven player on GG, maybe a Blaze Olive. So I thought that was kind of smart, but I agree that in the other drafts, they do a much better job at finding who to target, right? Like in the C9 game, Fudge is like by far, like you know you're going to target Fudge, right? So they put the Camille top, and then everyone else was more supportive. Against TL, the only person you're ever going to be able to bully on TL who isn't like world champion caliber is Tactical. And so they put the Blitz bot and they bullied Tactical. So I think that they've just had a really good plan in like identifying who to bully and how to go about doing it in every single game.
Well, in the TL game, they picked Irelia into Kennen, which I would see more as a top lane focused draft than a bot lane focused draft.
Yeah, I agree that like they, as soon as you see the Kennen, obviously you're gonna just pop the Irelia and win the game. Although I guess you should say the same thing about Gangplank. But
I mean, I feel like we're getting pretty nitty gritty on specific drafts from this weekend versus like, you know, they're gonna be top 3 and go to Worlds. Like, you gotta. Like, the other teams do smart shit too. Like, did you see 100 Thieves level 1? Like, against CLG, that was really smart. Like, do you see EG's level 1? That one was hella smart with the Silas over the wall. Like, other people are doing smart shit. There's good drafts out of other teams. Like, I don't think you can just say, like, one team has good drafts and then they're going to, like, 1v9 drafts. I think you still have to worry about, you have to worry about, like, player skill gaps. And I think there are, like, non-negligible player skill gaps on this team currently that need to be substantially improved before, you know, you're winning multiple best of 5 series against these other teams to actually go to Worlds, which is what you need to do.
Yeah, and I think player-wise, Insanity, he has had a little bit of time in the league. He's probably the one I'm least optimistic about, but I think he's pretty good. He's obviously, we haven't seen a lot out of him. He's just been playing one champion all weekend. But Revenge, like, he's always been like a hardcore grinder. Even if on like FlyQuest, he was always streaming, always grinding the game. And he's improved a lot. He was like considered one of the worst tops in Academy, and now obviously he's looking pretty serviceable. So I think he'll probably improve a lot. And then obviously Shurshay is super flexible. He's been strong. He can support the team. He's probably the shot caller, and then the bot lane is fairly smurf. But we'll have to see. Like, they have been a little bit suspicious in the bot lane, but I think with good coaching, it's not as hard to fix what they've got. Whereas like other teams, the only other one, yeah, would be 100 Thieves, and I don't know about like Someday and Demonte and how much they can improve.
I mean, I'll just say that I don't think improvement has to just be player skill improvement. Like, maybe someday it's not going to become like he's going to go Super Saiyan 4 from his Super Saiyan 3 level currently. Like, I'm not really even concerned about that. Like, if he's the second best top in NA and he stays the second best top in NA for the whole fucking split, like, that's not really the kind of improvement I'm concerned about. Like, right now they pull off more dives than any other teams. They're super proactive on the map.
a lot of their dives sucked this week, but they still were able to pull them off and like set up minion waves and coordinate on a team level. Whereas like some teams can't even do that. Like they're pretty far ahead at this point. So like, yeah, maybe Revenge goes from, I don't know what you put in right now, like 7th to like 4th or 3rd best top. I don't know. I'm just throwing numbers out, right? But like, that's not the only hurdle you have to overcome to become a good team. And it's not just drafts. Like, I think there's a lot of things that other teams are substantially further ahead than them in multiple categories right now, which is why I think it's going to be a huge uphill battle to overcome.
Yeah, it's a fun idea though. The idea of Immortals going, and by the way, this is another one of those calls where like if it happens, I will get so many wonderful YouTube views on reposting this video again and being like, caller accurately predicts Immortals going to Worlds. Pokemonsta, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I guess I'll shout out my friend who's an insane Immortals fan, Alex, not Jerome.
Was this your gift to them?
Sure.
This call?
I actually just had the take, and then I was like, oh yeah, you're an Immortals fan. You should be happy.
Well, hey, I mean, it sounds like you've got good reasons to bet on, this is like when people talk about Doge going to the moon, $1, like if it happens, it's going to be good. Thank you so much.
Diamond hands. There you go.
Thank you so much, Pokey, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I saw LS in the chat having some struggles with the take, and it's fascinating to me because he often says this is his favorite show to watch, which is his way, I think, of saying that it's not his favorite over the ones that he's on. But I'm surprised because I feel like the takes on this show I feel like they must give him a headache sometimes because I feel like he's the type of guy that has a hard time when people give takes he disagrees with, or a little bit more zany.
It can be good to hear things even if you don't agree with them, right? Like you can just find out more about it, like find out why someone thinks the way they do. Because I don't think it's impossible that Immortals could be one of the top teams by the end. I think they've showed some promise. I would say from what we've seen so far, I don't think it's likely, but could happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not teasing LS. That's more just like I know he's just probably sitting there like, oh. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
I listen to you for 2 hours a week, Travis. I'm very used to listening to people I don't agree with at all.
Thank you to the Fritz for 10 months. Meat Hook for gifting a sub to Jack. Kyle0808 for subbing for 3 years at tier 2. Very generous. Scientile Prime. Full Retro. Narajiri. Hungry Bridget, who I don't know if it's the Bridget I think it is, but she subbed for 5 months in advance, which is very generous of her. Nodak gifted 10 subs. Putasso for 6 months. And then Kyle0808 gifting 20 subs. It's awesome. Thank you so much. We got Green Serviday. Is that how you say Green Serviday?
Yeah, that's exactly how you say it, actually.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati, Ohio. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I have a take that's kind of more about like the community reactions. I will preface this. I am a Golden Guardians fan, so I'm definitely biased. But I literally think that people are being way too hard on Golden Guardians and they're giving them way too much flack. Like, I prefer to watch Double Lift's co-streams just because I like the analysis better than the castings. But, like, he will not watch a Golden Guardians game. And I literally – it makes me so mad seeing people trash them constantly because I know for a fact that they're not an amazing team. But this roster was put together with the like express purpose of being developed. And like people don't really realize how good Maryville University actually was. So Niles and Iconic are like actually good players. And people just seem to like trash them at every single chance they get. I watched the cast and Freak is like flaming every single decision. And I don't disagree that like Niles is sometimes real cocky and like sometimes they make some big mistakes and their games have like questionable macro. But they were supposed to come into this with the like purpose of developing. And if you watch their games, their decision making is already like not that bad. They just have to take a few more steps to get there. And we watched Golden Guardians last year be really, really good after they were like an okay roster. So I just think that people are being too hard on them, and I think that eventually Golden Guardians is gonna be like a decent mid-tier team at best, you know?
I agree a lot with and I think on one of the previous calls I said something about how Mark, don't even try. I said something about how it's disappointing because I feel like people don't look at Golden Guardians the way, like, I think you should judge a team based off their strategy and their goals. Golden Guardians is not looking to be a top 4 team this year. They are looking to develop talent. And so I think it's fine for people to criticize them if they're going to say something like, hey, you're choosing the wrong talent to develop, or you're not doing a good enough job of developing talent. But it's like, wow, Niles is getting destroyed by Alfari. I can't believe Golden Guardian sucks. It's like, what did you expect to happen in this matchup, right? Like, they've been transparent about the fact that they're going to be picking these players and that this is their goal. So it's, I get that, like, people want to be critical of the players, but, like, I just think it's weird when it feels as though some people are holding them to the same standard that they're holding, like, a TL or something, you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree that I think maybe people can go a little easier on Golden Guardians, but at the same time, I do kind of agree with Doubleth in the sense that like their games are not great to watch. And to the point of Niles and Iconic coming from Maryville, I think that's a bit of a weird situation because Collegiate, in my opinion, is just really, really far below like what LCS or even Academy or like maybe even amateur skill level is at, because for LCS teams, it's people who've been playing the game for years who spend all day, every day working at it, right? And collegiate teams is like people who are studying to go to school and just also happen to play League. There's not a lot of like diamond players in those teams. And so it kind of reminds me of a case where like, somebody can make a really sick YouTube montage just smurfing against noobs and they'll look really good. But then, you run into them in solo queue and they're actually not that good. It feels like, are they really a big fish or were they just in a tiny pond? Because I think that, they're kind of coming into LCS still with that big fish mindset, just picking stuff like Quinn's, or not Quinn's, Cleanse Quinn against some days Renekton, or taking, like the Ignite Camille, things that kind of you can pub stomp with, but all of a sudden when you try it against someone who's better than you just get completely clowned on. So, in that regard, Golden Guardians hasn't impressed me too much. Also, just like their overall map control, vision control, like team movements haven't been that great. So I do think it's cool of them to like develop a roster. I don't have high hopes for them this split. I think their players can learn a lot from the opportunity, but realistically, I don't think they're gonna, be in the top half of the standings.
But we don't expect them to, right? Like, that's my thing is like you seem to think that they aren't going to be in the top half. I seem to think they're not going to be in the top half. So why should we get frustrated when this team is like losing to the teams that we expect to be in the top half?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's totally fair. Like if it's just the call is about expectations around this team, then yeah, I think people are probably being a little too harsh on Golden Guardians. But I guess my point was more so just like I don't think people need to be super critical of them, but I just think the expectation shouldn't be that high for them.
I think it's actually somewhat interesting because there's like reactionary, like you're watching a game and you see a play and you're like, oh god, that's dog shit, like, and you're not really trying to flame anyone. It's just like a reaction to like the play that you just saw, like, oh my god, that was such a terrible decision, and I can see co-streamers and people who are, watching this stuff live in the moment, you might just go like, ugh, and it's like flamey, but like it's just your gut reaction to a play, and you're gonna, as a like what we're talking about, a developmental team, you're gonna have more of those kinds of reactions to this team versus like when you watch a TL versus 100 Thieves game or something like that, you know, like, so I can understand why there's this feeling that's more negative, because if you're watching the game purely from a how well is this team playing level, you're going to have more negative reactions to this team. You know, which I think what a lot of co-streamers do is they're just commenting on the actual quality of the game, which isn't necessarily fair, but that's how they approach every team. To be, at least they're like, you know, treating everyone the same way, which you can argue they shouldn't be doing because it's a developmental team. But I don't know. I think people should be calmer on them. Like if you're calling for benchings or you're calling for like, oh, this guy sucks. Like if you're actually making those kinds of statements, you need to chill out. But if you're watching one of their games and you see them, you know, fuck up some dive or they're doing some troll shit, like, you know, I can kind of forgive that reaction. The one thing I'll say is I'll go to bat for Collegiate a little bit. Yes, on like the ramp up to like the actual Collegiate Championship, there's some trash teams, like, you know, like not even full diamond rosters and stuff. But by the time you get to the end, you know, Youngbin's been playing there, Bloodwater played there for a little bit. Like usually most of those players are high diamond as a challenger by the end. But it's definitely, to your point, not like they're spending day after day, 8 hours a day grinding the game. So it's just not going to be, it's apples to oranges at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Another thing too about the collegiate scene and why I think that, like, you know, it's understandable that people are criticizing Niles for being like super cocky. I will never deny that. But like Maryville legitimately dominated the collegiate scene. And I went to a university that had a team that was a rival, and like it was just insane how hard they would smash the collegiate teams. So, you know, Niles and Iconic, yes, they're inexperienced. Yes, when they played, like, they had to deal with their classes, which, you know, that's a ton of work. You can't really be committing to the game. But, like, it's still impressive that they have the raw skill where they're at. And I think that if Golden Guardians coaching staff is able to like tame Niles' ego and work on Iconic kind of like confidence in his play, I see him being like a little bit unconfident. I think that those two players could be really good. Blaze Olive has been like one of the best academy mid laners for years now. Stixay, I think, has performed pretty well, and Newbie looks like okay, sometimes a little questionable, but really good otherwise. Like in the login tournament, I remember when he played Galio, he was nuts, dude. I think that people really are putting too much pressure on them. And when you look at the teams that they've actually played, I rank those teams as like either top 4 or not in playoffs. They've played C9, they've played EG, they've played TL, 100 Thieves. Like the teams that they've played are at the top, and they've lost to them, of course, but they've also played against TSM and CLG, and TSM was a close game, and they won against CLG. Like you can't expect much more from them.
By the way, where does this Niles ego narrative come from? By the way, I'm trying. Has he said something somewhere that I missed, or is it just the way he plays in the game?
It's not so much like his ego, like a player like Double Lift, where he'll you know, trash talk and stuff. I think Niles does actually trash talk, but it's just the way he plays. Honestly, he makes really aggressive trades and doesn't really seem to respect everything at all times.
I think some of it's like weirdly in the middle, because from when he was in collegiate, I heard other players saying that, you know, he has an ego, you know, he talks shit kind of thing. But I think when people are talking about it in this instance, they're mostly talking about, like Meteos was saying, like cleanse Quinn into, you know, Renekton kind of picks and stuff like that.
I hate that. I agree.
But I'll say, like, man, fuck it. I'd rather you try something cool. Like, I think if that's the player he wants to be, if that's his play style, if that's who he's gonna be, like, I don't know, all in, baby. Push the chips forward. Like, you're the counter pick guy. Show me that LPL Quinn. You know, show me that Fiora. Show me that Ignite Camille. Because if that's who you want to be, you know, like go for it.
Yeah, I don't really mind that so much. You know, it does come across as overconfident picking those kind of things into someone who's probably better than you, but like you don't see that often. Like it's intriguing. I would say that, you know, obviously he did get clowned on in those games. Like he's had some pretty hard feeds in a lot of his games, but I think that's kind of expected for a newer player. Like I don't think new players should just like play with your tail between their legs all the time. I think you got to learn at some point. See what can be done into that. Maybe he feels like the matchup's unplayable for an Ekton, and then maybe he learned something from Someday that day, like, oh, okay, that's how I can handle it, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I don't think he's come across as overly cocky or anything. Probably just still has a lot to learn.
Well, hey, thanks so much, Green, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our last caller?
Yeah, I want to shout out to whoever hired all of the new broadcast talent. Primal, Emily, and the Tigers, I think, have been insane. I love watching them. Also, whoever edited your Game Fuel video, that was pretty good.
Great.
But that's it for me.
I'll pass on the feedback. Thanks so much, Green.
Yep.
Yeah, have a good one.
Notice the snubbing of Alorum. Feels bad, man.
And his cat.
And his banjo.
Yeah. Well, I like what if that had just been, he's like, shout out to Primal, Emily the Tigress, and Alorum's cat. The the talent has been fantastic. Which, by the way, no shout out to that cat. All right. Thank you to Official Molson, Poro on Mars, Ritzy, HC Hammy, Backflip, Stowins, One Bad Steve, Jonesy, Blaine Blasphemy, and I Am the Reaper. All caught up now on subs. Thanks everyone for the support. I miss Envoy too. I do too. All right. BMW, thank you for calling. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My topic was about, it kind of feels like there's a lack of genuine rivalry in the LCS right now. And I might just be feeling nostalgic, but I started watching in Season 6, and it felt like there was a lot more emphasis on like hyping up a big Cloud9 TSM match, or even just comments from, like, I remember that Dardoch interview where he said their loss to CLG was a fluke.
Yeah, we talked about that recently, yeah. So good.
Yeah. And stuff like Double Lift kind of saying Sneaky could work on his laning, and then that built up moments where Sneaky killed Double Lift in lane. Like, I don't know, it just feels like, I think one of the issues was how many of the old faces left this year. So I don't think it's the league's fault. It's just, it feels like there were big shoes to fill, and I'm worried if they'll be able to fill those. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on that.
Yeah. I actually agree with you, and I think a mistake that I've kind of been seeing is the broadcast trying to force the rivalries too hard. Like, even with the C9 TSM rivalry, like, I feel like that one's kind of gone. It hasn't really felt like a thing for a while, in my opinion. Even having been part of it, like even in their teaser for the match this weekend, it was Perks talking about G2 versus Fnatic half the time. It was just like a really weird thing. It didn't feel genuine. So I think it is hard when a lot of fan favorite players aren't playing right now. But I would like to see the narratives be a little bit more organic and not feel kind of like forced.
Mark, did I miss anything on the broadcast, or was the only time you guys talked about Jensen's comments about Perks in that, like, let's talk about trash talking segment, I think, during the start of the show?
No, I think we talked about it a couple times.
Okay. You got really quiet all of a sudden. I don't know why, but go ahead.
Huh. Maybe
it's better.
Something. No, I think we talked about it a couple times. I would need to go back and check. Yeah, I don't know.
Because that was actually one that I thought was really authentic. Like, you had, obviously, yes, it was in my interview and blah, blah, blah. But, like, Jensen was literally saying, like, I think Perks is good, but I don't think there's anything I can learn from him. And I think C9 is not going to be as good as people think that they're going to be. And then they, like, faced off in the finals. And I might have missed it because, like, oftentimes I miss chunks of the broadcast when I'm going and doing these post-game interviews. But I thought that was, like, a great opportunity. You have the finals. You have the mid laner saying that this new like all-star player that's coming to the league is actually not as impressive as perhaps people think he's going to be, and is not going to be that much of a challenge for him or whatever. And I was just kind of disappointed that wasn't played up more. Like I tweeted, I think, that Riot could take the clip even from my stuff, play it. I don't care. Just hype it.
Great.
They could full screen just a sec. I don't need any credit. They could cut out my like Alienware logo or link, and like they could just full screen.
Yeah,
I can give them the raw footage of Jensen just saying that into a camera. Mark, you okay?
Yeah, dude. I think that's not really the problem. I think, like, to some of Meteos' points, like, because there's different, like, I guess you would call them, like, channels that things are being made. Like, the people who make features and the people who make the analyst desk segments and the people who do different portions of the analyst desk. Like, the person who edits my lo-fi plays is not the person who's doing features, I'm pretty sure. Like, and even if they were editing it, they might not be the one producing it. So, like, there's different avenues where you can discuss this kind of stuff. I think we do an okay job. I don't want to force narratives. I agree with the caller that I feel like there is a lack of rivalries, because every fucking team every 2 years has like 100% roster turnover at this point in the LCS. Like, the one person who hadn't done that was Bjergsen, and he's gone now. Doublelift has played for like, was it 5 orgs at this point, 4 orgs, like now he's gone. There's a whole lot of new players. And I think you gotta have to just give it time. Like, I can't, like, what rivalry is insane right now in NA that, we're not, is there one that I'm just like blanking on that's this insane rivalry that I'm not thinking of? Like
Jensen Perks.
Fuck you. Anyways.
Yeah, I think C9 TL, but another thing that's kind of weird about rivalries is I feel like players rotate teams so much more in LCS than they do in traditional sports. So it's like, maybe one year you're on this side of the rivalry, next year you're on the other side, and it's like, oh yeah, man, I'm diehard C9, like we're really gonna take it to him. Then the next year you're like, oh dude, I hate C9, man. Like it's just like, nah, that's not gonna work for me.
And I think there are some areas where you can have like more player focused ones, like Santorin versus Blabber. It's like, okay, FlyQuest versus TL is not really a storyline because, or like, versus C9 isn't really a storyline because he was on FlyQuest versus C9 in that finals, but now he's on TL. And Blabber versus Santorin, they don't even have any like specific beef, or I don't even know if they've ever like shit talked each other or said anything. Like what narrative am I supposed to paint there other than like, hey, this is arguably 1-2 in the jungle in NA, and we do that. We'll say like, these are the best 2 guys. Here's Blabber's play style. Here's Santorin's play style. These are their most played champs. Here's how they approach the game. Here's the lanes they gank the most. But I can't. There's no rivalry there necessarily.
Yeah, I agree.
So
it's
like
these
that's
times face each other, but there's not like there's some underlying narrative that makes it very interesting when they clash again.
Right, which is why I do appreciate to your interview, like Jensen being honest about how he doesn't view Perks as like this insane player who's going to level up NA. Like I think that stuff's really good, and I want more of it so that there's more to play with for the broadcast. And I'm not saying this is like give us a pass, guys. We're doing the best that we possibly can. I'm not saying there's no improvements to be made, but like I wonder what is is there one that I'm just totally blanking on? Because I don't feel like there is even an insane rivalry to even hype up at this point, because what is it?
I think there was a thread on the Team Liquid subreddit this weekend that was just like, who's our rival? And it was like a fan that's just like, I'm like a fan of
who
Team
do I
Liquid.
hate?
I'm trying to figure out who my rival is. Do we have a rival team? Like so I get it. I agree a lot that it's like, it's hard to think of stuff. I mean, I think part of it is like the league, to your point, has just been exploding and weird and unusual, and like new players have come in and all that stuff. And I guess maybe that's part of the cost of it is like, I don't know. The thing that would have been, I will tell you one thing. If TSM had lost to CLG yesterday, after Andy had said the rivalry is dead and CLG's a dead org, that's spicy and fun. I like that a lot. I wish that there had been a little bit more conversation about the stakes there, but there's just not really a natural one, I don't think.
And I think there are a decent amount of like storyline rivalries. Like, it's just from when I was watching, I always think it's interesting to like see players versus their former teams, especially if they got dropped by that team. So, like I was really interested to watch EG versus TL in the like lock-in playoffs because it's kind of like
Impact.
Impact, like going up against his former team, or like Golden Guardians versus CLG because it's Stixay going up against his former team, just stuff like that. And I don't think you need to like make it some long-standing rivalry where you try to be like, oh, it's just like a dynasty in the making, but just mention it, because a lot of times you can kind of tell like the players will look a little different in those games. Like it looked like Stixay really was trying his ass off against CLG, and he kind of just like dominated them. Whereas like when you were watching Impact and EG, it felt like he was trying super hard against TL, but maybe he was like getting tilted toward the end because he started making some like uncharacteristic mistakes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think we definitely tried to hit those ones because I know we definitely talked about Impact versus former team. We usually try to get the former team rivalries discussed. And like even some of them, like Jensen versus Svenska Aaron is one that I know we've like master versus people kind of thing. We wrote that for a little bit, and we try to find those areas. I think part of it is just like time too. When you bring in, I don't know how many new players there are this year, but it feels like there's a shitload. Like they're going to need time for things to naturally develop. One of the reasons that good rivalries are awesome is because there's a history to them, and like when you bring in Perks to NA for the first time, give him a little bit of time to find a rivalry. It's been a couple weeks of competition, and I think same with like I don't know, Jose Dioto and I don't know, maybe Niles is gonna like pop off one game, shit talk someone after doing it, and then they will have a Niles versus this guy beef. Like Niles has been here for 4 weeks and they're struggling. I think more of these will develop over time, but this was a really weird year where half the orgs went developmental approach, and you're gonna have to give it some time.
They're talking about all these things like the Impact one, Meteos, while you're playing Skull. You just can't hear it because you're busy playing Skull.
I was talking about it while playing Skull, so joke's on you.
Very true. I want to see Mark on the analyst desk playing Skull. I think that would be great.
What do you think I'm doing on the remote broadcast setup, dude?
That's true. You usually seem as engaged as you do on this show. Though now our new sponsor will solve all of that. BMW, any thoughts on anything you've heard here as we start to wind down the show? BMW? I see your mic lighting up, but I don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're breaking up a bit, but go ahead.
I was just saying, I think the desk does a good job. As Mark was saying, it's hard this year with the amount of roster turnover. And I think we all know it, but Doublelift retiring, I think I feel like every rivalry was kind of involving him in some way. So obviously those are big shoes to fill, but I'm hopeful that with Perks coming over that we can definitely build some new ones for the future.
Well, I guess we'll have to see how things go. I'm hopeful. I would love narratives. I definitely want. I think there's been some highlight moments for LCS. I think there's some stuff to be excited about, but I definitely do feel like we're missing some stuff. So, thank you so much for the call. Any shout outs or plugs before we wrap up the show?
One, I think when League is back in person, I think LCS finals should come to Philadelphia. It's come to New York, so I think Philly would be great. And 2, I think cats are a great pet, especially during COVID time.
Well, that's our caller. Unfortunately,
almost as good as dogs.
He disconnected. Anyway, that's the show. Mark, what do you got to shout out plug? What's going on?
Shout out to Game Fuel.
Great. That's it.
You look very focused, Mark.
Glad that you solved the enthusiasm issue we talked about in this game.
Didn't I not just have so much energy right there?
Yeah.
200%.
No, but it is true. Mark does like to drink beverages of the energy variety.
I am actually a highly caffeinated person.
He is, and so we've been able to get him cases and cases of that stuff. He likes the zero as well as the cherry flavor. So go check that out. Anything else, Mark? You got anything that's happening this week?
Check out the dive. It'll come out tomorrow morning.
Anything else happening this week you can talk about yet?
Maybe.
Are you allowed to talk about it?
I don't know. I haven't asked them.
Okay, well then I won't make you talk about it. But
I don't think it matters. I'm casting a TFT thing with Kobe on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Twitch Rivals.
Very good.
There you go.
And I'm
Meteos.
playing in it.
Are you? No,
Nope.
you're not. I've looked at the player list.
Meteos, what you got for us?
Not a whole lot. I mean, thanks for having me. It was a good time as always. And for people who haven't checked out my co-stream, maybe you can stop by. I'm co-streaming every LCS match over at twitch.tv/Meteos. So hope to see some new faces.
It's a very good co-stream. I spent a lot of time there, and also, if you like Skull, you can catch a lot of that Skull action in between the games. Thank you so much to Meteos for coming on the show. A couple different things. One, I've got a pretty busy week. So I tomorrow am doing a stream for Adobe that's sponsored. I believe I'm going to be on the front page of Twitch for it. And I am doing it with James Chen and one other person as well. We're going to be doing some video creation in Premiere. So that's kind of cool. I get to do that. And on Wednesday, for those of you that are aware of Code Miko, I'm going to be interviewed by Code Miko on her stream at 12:30 Pacific. Which should be pretty fun. She's a really talented individual that I'm looking forward to doing the interview. I think it should be really cool. So I'm excited about that. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else. But shout out to GameFill. Really excited to have them on as a sponsor. Cool to sign another 1-year deal. Besides Alienware, our TGI's only ever signed that 1-year deal with them. So it's cool to be able to do this. Anyway, this has been Hotline League, episode 159. We'll catch you next time.